What's going on, guys? I'm John Ranger from Techno Buffalo, and if you couldn't tell, this is the Pixel 3 XL. This is our review of it. So this review went through a few different versions. So my initial thoughts changed after a few days, and that changed after a week. Now after 3 weeks of using it, I think I know the phone pretty well. Interior perspective, that's gonna be a bit different. I also think it's a testament to the quality of the device and the importance of really using a phone or anything you're reviewing for a long period of time, because it totally changed my mind. For me, there are two reasons somebody would really buy any Pixel, the 3 or the 3 XL included. A kick-ass camera and a pure Android experience with guaranteed years of updates. So I'm gonna kind of work backwards here. If one of those two are your top reasons to buy a phone, then just go out and buy the Pixel 3 or the 3 XL. You're gonna get exactly that. But if you don't fall into that box, keep watching. This may or may not be the phone for you. And so while this review is gonna focus mostly on the XL, the 3 is pretty much the exact same phone, save for screen resolution, size, and no notch. But most of the points that I'm gonna mention here are gonna work for its notchless little bro too. So speaking of notch, let's just do it. The notch, it's there, it's deep, looks like myriad of emoji, and it takes what would otherwise be a pretty classy looking package and kinda uggs it up. My issue with the notch though, isn't its very existence like some, it's how Google used it. It's not housing some sort of crazy advanced facial scanning, it's just a front-facing cameras and speakers and a few ambient sensors. Things that pretty much every phone pre-2016 had at the top. And if you aren't adding something new, why bother adding the notch at all? Just take the Samsung approach, with slim top and bottom bezels, and also a nice side effect, you'd make that gigantic chin seem a little bit less chinny. And if you're buying this phone, chances are you're not gonna care about that notch at all. And to be totally honest, I can deal with the ugly design because the software is so good. I just wish I didn't have to. And also a small note, it started to feel kind of antiquated using the fingerprint unlock in the back with phones now going facial unlocking or in-screen. But to its credit, despite its location, it did unlock pretty fast. The only other real negatives of the Pixel 3 XL aren't what it has, it's what it doesn't have. 4 gigabytes of RAM for a flagship. It's gonna be the current model until like around October 2019. By then, OnePlus 7 or 7T is probably gonna be up to 32 gigs of RAM or something just ridiculous like that. So to the phone's credit, the lack of RAM doesn't slow the experience down. Although I did notice that some apps I'd have to reload again if I tried opening the apps that I opened up earlier in the day. The overall software experience though is gonna be crazy smooth and things hum along as quickly as any other phone on the market. My concern with the RAM though isn't today, it's more of the future. If you're planning on keeping this phone when Android Q or R hit, I'm willing to bet you're gonna feel the lack of gigabytes then. So that's it, those are really the only negatives you're gonna find here on the Pixel 3 XL. This is a really good phone as it exists right now towards the end of 2018. So the Pixel 2 XL took a big hit for the screen, and Google righted that ship this time around. The 6.3-inch QHD Plus panel looks really good. It's not like a Samsung level, but it's good enough that you're not gonna notice it like being bad. Colors look great, and since it's OLED, blacks are black. Games, movies, whatever you're doing are gonna look good. There is a slight blue hue, but I only noticed it when I held it directly to another phone. So unless you're walking around like this with another phone, you're not really gonna notice it. So the screen isn't the only area where Google really stepped up since last year. Wireless charging is here, and also improved water resistance. And with wireless charging, you're gonna get a glass back that makes the device feel awesome in the hand. And to me, it feels way better than the aluminum on the 2 and the 2 XL. I kinda just really liked holding it. While the glass back does look and feel awesome, I don't care how strong any company is gonna claim their glass is, it's going to scratch and eventually crack if you drop it, especially the black. I love the panda look on last year's phones, so I just slapped a D-brand skin on ours to protect the back from inevitable scratches, and I kinda dug the aesthetic. If you wanna put one on yours, we'll just link to them down below. But oh, that sweet, sweet, sweet camera. We actually did a whole video delving onto the camera and how it compared to the iPhone XS, but here are the highlights. It's good, like really good. And at this point, after all the camera success, the Pixel 2, you'd expect this to be amongst the best in the industry, and Google did not disappoint there. Colors and sharpness and details are all pretty close to perfect. Low light was awesome as well. It's really good in every situation. So with the default settings, you're not gonna get oversaturated colors like you get on kind of most Samsung, but the colors are pretty close to lifelike. What's most impressive to me though is portrait mode. Even with the single lens, the camera shines. And this is where you start to see the advantage of Google with their crazy magic machine learning. It's incredible how it handles things that other phones, regardless of how many sensors they have, struggle with. Things like hair and edges, and if there's a cutout in the subject, it's just impressive how well it handles everything without that second sensor that most phones rely on for depth. Those aren't the only cameras, there's two living in that notch. So you've got one regular selfie camera and one wide angle camera, which is pretty killer for group selfies. Portrait mode predictably works, just not nearly as well as the rear one. If you want a selfie in portrait mode, at least it doesn't have kind of that over aggressive noise reduction that gives you that weird beauty mode. There were some occasional though inconsistencies with portrait mode on the front facing camera, so check this out. I swear I'm not that orange in real life and it wasn't like a crazy sunset. And another shot when I had my two kids on my lap had a really tough time finding focus. Other things you might care about, battery life from the 3430 mAh battery was really solid, leaving me with about 35% end of the day. The most screen on time that I had was 7 hours, but the moral being, it's a dayer. It'll get you through a full day, no problem. Don't expect like 2 or 3 days, just plug in at night or wirelessly charge it. Last, and probably most important to a lot of you, the software. Android Pie out of the box is amazing. I wasn't the biggest fan of gestures at first, but then I got used to them and kind of started to appreciate the nuances. It's incredibly smooth, if not totally intuitive at the beginning. So it's got this squeeze for Google Assistant, and that's a feature to easily laugh off. Heck, I've been laughing it off since HTC debuted it a few years ago, but the last week of using the phone, I started using it, and I found it kind of useful. But what is probably the best feature of the phone is call screening. So for a while, I was averaging about 3 spam calls per day. I actually paid for a service to block them. While I was using the Pixel 3 XL, I would like wait for a spam call to come in just so I could see it in action. This alone is like a low-key reason to buy the Pixel. Although it should come to the Pixel 2 family as well if you got one of those. And speaking of 2 or 2 XL, you can probably safely hold off for another year if you've got one of those phones. But if you're coming from the OG Pixel, any other Android phone, or an iPhone, this is a perfect entry level into Android that's almost guaranteed to give you an amazing experience. And almost all I said here is true again for the Pixel 3, and it's also gonna save you $100. You get almost exactly the same phone. You don't have to have the high resolution and the bigger screen. You get the same experience and performance, just notchless this time around. So that's the Pixel 3 XL. If you want a phone that's not just the best Android phone on the market, but arguably one of the best phones you can buy, give it a look. I don't think you're gonna be disappointed. So for me, there are 2 reasons somebody would buy a pickle. Pickle? Yeah.